introduce my host for today. That's Colin Jevons, who is the course director for the Bachelor of Business at Monash University. So Colin, over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you to everybody for attending on what is a bright, lovely blue sky, sunny day here in Melbourne. Anyway, I think the most distant participant so far is from New South Wales, just across the border from Mildura, I think. So welcome to you. In particular, isn't Zoom a wonderful thing when it works like this? So thank you, James. Can we get the next slide? So here's the panel. I hope you've had a good morning. Incidentally, the speakers that you've had are really sort of exciting, almost global leaders. We are mere educators here, and I hope we can achieve similar standards to them. So I'm Colin Jevons. I'm course director of the Bachelor of Business. My colleague Dr. Elizabeth Snuggs will be speaking about a particular area of interest of hers in the next few minutes. We have a recording with Professor David Gilbert, who's our Director of Entrepreneurship. He can't be here, I'm not sure if we can say physically, he can't be here live because unfortunately he regularly checks in with a panel of CEOs, and this is unfortunately his day for talking to the CEOs. But we do have a recording of him, and we can pick up messages for him afterwards if necessary. Most importantly, we have Sarah and Edward, who are current students here. Sarah and Edward, can you give us a wave? Now, Sarah and Edward, we want you to speak whenever you find something useful or helpful to say. Don't wait for us to invite you necessarily. As James said, we want this to be as interactive as possible, and that's not just with the careers practitioner participants, but with you guys too. To talk briefly about my job, the new Bachelor of Business, we have 6,500 students in the degree. Numbers haven't dropped much as a result of the COVID crisis, which is nice. We've flipped to teaching even more flexibly than we have in the past. It's been actually quite a good thing that we've been working with teaching online or blended for close to 10 years now. So the switch wasn't too tough for us, nor even for our students. What I spent much of last year doing was refreshing this degree for the 2020s. The world, of course, is changing. It was changing pretty rapidly before the COVID crisis, and that, I think, has at best accelerated the rate of change. And all educational institutions have to respond, I think, to that, because we're, I guess, helping to shape the future of society and business as a whole. I've asked Elizabeth and David to come along and talk to us because they represent some of the key changes that we're making for the future of the degree, because we're looking at new graduate outcomes and new skill sets for this new era. Monash, as a research-oriented institution, as one of the top 50 universities in the world by many measures, is tremendously good at knowing and teaching stuff, knowledge, skills, the stuff that my colleagues are doing research on up and down the corridors and in the labs. And that's great. But what is also needed is more generic, interdisciplinary workplace enterprise skills. So we have some new integrated skills focused units, and Elizabeth is leading the first one of those, and she'll be telling us in detail about that shortly. And we have some new majors as well. The structure is still the same structure that has been tried and tested over many years. There's 8 free electives in the single degree, which has proved hugely popular and something we don't want to mess with. Next slide, please, James. So we are bringing in, mostly at second year level, after students have learnt their the basic stuff in first year, some new integrating skills units, and you can see them listed there. They are big picture units. They're perhaps based in 1 or 2 disciplines, but are quite deliberately interdisciplinary in nature. So you apply the very high level knowledge that you're learning in one discipline to perhaps real world problems. Next slide, please, James. If it comes up, thank you.
Sorry, Colin.
Sorry, we'll tell you what. Let's go back, James.
Yeah, sorry, Colin.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Perhaps we can bring in Elizabeth now.
Yeah.
So, Elizabeth, if are you on screen now? James, can we see Elizabeth?
I can turn off the presentation for the minute. Yeah.
That's it's great, thank you. So, Elizabeth, so I mean, you heard my introduction.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. So, how is business changing? How are we seeing it changing pre-COVID? And I know you agree that that COVID is accelerating that, because we were talking about that just the other day.
Look, the world was changing pre-COVID anyway, and the acceleration that COVID has brought on is phenomenal. We're seeing things done in three months that usually take 5 to 7 years in some instances, particularly around the technology-mediated space. And the whole concept of working at home, for example. I was reading an article in The Guardian, and they were saying 80% of people agreed that if the job allowed it, there should be some more continued working from home in a new normal that COVID is bringing. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but we need to make sure that our students are actually skilled with the right toolbox of techniques and thinking approaches in order to bring it to life, and in order to feel comfortable about embracing change, embracing new opportunities, and really kind of adapting to the world and the landscape that's going to be moving forward.
So how is what you're doing going to help our students, our graduates, address that?
So I'm in charge of integrative thinking in a dynamic world. And really what I want students to do is learn to think, well, I know that they know how to think, let's be honest. What I want them to do is put some structure and some frameworks and have a toolbox where they can use all these skills in a safe place and develop their strength in this area toward thinking, decision-making, and problem solving. So these skills are multidisciplinary, or actually no discipline at all. These skills can really help them with their personal lives. So for example, a student might graduate from Monash from an undergraduate degree anywhere aged between 20 and 24 on average. And what we see is that they might be retiring at 70 plus in the future. So they're going to be doing a lot of pivoting between roles for the future. So by having this underlying skill set, it's almost like a foundation to go, actually, I can go work in a big corporate. I can go work for government. I can go do some contracting, or I can set up my own business. And they'll be able to have those skills and knowledge in order to have the confidence to go, I'm okay. And I think that's really important. So this unit kind of integrates all of that into it. So they can then use it for their personal lives. They can use it for societal issues as well, and also then for the organisation. And the organisation's actually probably the hardest one for them to imagine at this point. So we kind of go around a bit, if that makes sense.
Got it. And of course, organisations are changing as well, aren't they?
Absolutely. The 90s versus now is good, but the now versus 10, 12 years time is going to be big.
Yeah, unimaginably so, almost.
Yeah.
Here's a tricky one for you. What are the key skills, the key takeaways that students will get?
Okay, so we teach a concept called integrative thinking. That is our primary framework, and that's about looking at different options available and then actually pulling out elements of each option in order to create an optimal solution. So that happens later on in the semester. In the first part of the semester, we're trying to build their foundational knowledge, which can include things like doing a Pareto analysis, developing an Ishikawa diagram or anything like that, so that they can make good decisions based on evidence and insight. So that's another key aspect. But ultimately, out of all of that, I want them to feel confident to take a risk.
Sounds great. Feel confident taking a risk. Good stuff. Thank you, Elizabeth. If any questions come in, I'm sure that we can refer those back to you.
More than happy to answer.
Great. So, and I think that's really exciting. And you, and Elizabeth was too modest to point out that the first delivery of that unit actually got a purple letter, which is we call internal talk, from the university. It had more than 90% student satisfaction, which is just terrific. Now, second, let's now hear from Professor David Gilbert, who's our Director of Entrepreneurship. So thank you, David. Let me introduce you, Professor David Gilbert, Director of Entrepreneurship in the Monash Business School. David, thank you for joining us. Can you tell us, please, how you see the field of business changing?
Business is changing rapidly, and I think the onset of the pandemic has just actually fueled that. If we look at the move to digital business models, different ways of actually exploring problem spaces and the solutions to those problems, I think we're seeing a real upswing in the innovation curve that's going to be very, very interesting over the next couple of years. Innovation sort of driven by crisis, if you like. Yes, certainly. Look, I think it's really precipitated a lot of activity, whereas people were perhaps comfortable pre-pandemic. I think they're now seeing opportunity and taking that chance to jump in and have a crack. And perhaps accelerating an existing trend amongst a small minority. Absolutely. Look, what we see, and this is why I love working at universities, is the passion and the limitless opportunity that students see, and it's just really fascinating to take note that they don't feel they're constrained by a corporate career or being in a swimming lane, so to speak. They just see the big pool. That's great, isn't it? Tell us a bit more about how entrepreneurial thinking is different to the old way of thinking. Yeah, look, certainly, and this is something we've been very particular about at Monash Business School. We've focused very, very heavily on entrepreneurial mindsets. So we believe that we need to unlock and untap that potential of our fantastic young minds, and then give them the capabilities to be able to execute on that and to put that into practice. So I think some of the hallmarks of an entrepreneurial mindset are people that don't see problems per se, they see opportunity. They're comfortable with uncertainty and volatility. They can deal with ambiguity, and they're actually just very comfortable amongst chaos, a little bit more than other people may pretend to be. So our young people actually grow into that mindset. So that's something that we're very, very focused on at the entrepreneurship at Monash Business School. And then we work very hard to give them the capabilities to be able to put that in practice. So building on, I guess, natural talent and background and not squashing it, perhaps. Absolutely. One of the things I love working with our young people is I don't think they understand how good they can really be. And for us to unlock that potential is so it's satisfying. You know, I go home every night thinking, wow, that's something amazing that I've seen today, and it's a real joy.
That's great to hear. Tell us more about how does it work? What I mean, you've told us a bit about the skills that they learn. Can you give us an example of some things that you teach or that they learn?
Yes, certainly. Look, generally what we do look at is we look at some of the trends that are happening in our world, and we pose challenges around a theme or a particular sector or area, and they could be anything from poverty alleviation through entrepreneurship to sustainable living, to the use of deep tech in the way that we change the way we do business. So once we see that sort of framing for problems, we then are able to narrow that down and focus and get something that's actually achievable in 12 weeks. We work our students very hard. We believe that sets them up for their life. And one thing we're very, very strong on is we don't want you to just come and do a course of study with us, do your exam, forget all about it, move on to the next unit. We're really trying to develop life skills, and if students work hard enough, the grade will come with that. So we generally start with problems or opportunities. We then get them to look at, okay, well, what's the very, very best benchmark worldwide in that particular area? So they generally start with some really deep research skills, but a little bit different. We're not looking at, sort of stats and quantitative analysis. It's more qualitative and empathetic research, which is based around the end user and customer. So the students are, how shall we say, encouraged to get out of the class and to really engage with the people that they're trying to solve problems for. So it's really that sort of antithesis of that push-to-market model where you think you know what the problem is, you then design a solution, you push it out to market and you go, well, why didn't they want that? Oh, I didn't even understand the problem, let alone design the correct solution. So we're really strong at that front piece to make sure that they're grounded in desirability, which is that hallmark of design thinking. And then we look at the feasibility aspect, which is really around how do we actually do this? What's the technology that's involved? What's the capability set required? And then, of course, very important, we look at the viability of that. So what's the business model around that? Because when it comes down to it, if you've got no money, you've no customers, you don't have a business.
Sounds absolutely terrific, and I can see why. I mean, you mentioned earlier that you do work with students very hard and encourage them to get out of the classroom and get out of classroom thinking. And this is something that I've heard from students as sort of informal feedback about what you teach, and they say that yes, it's really hard work, but it's valuable, and I think I can see why.
It's exciting, and look, as we know, nobody got anywhere without hard work. And probably one of my favourite quotes this semester has been a biomed student who put a post in Slack, which was hashtag entrepreneurship is harder than medicine.
Of course it is, because it involves not following rules, and medicine's exactly the opposite, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, reshaping institutional guidelines, shall we say?
Reshaping. Oh, can I use that? Professor David Gilbert, thank you very much indeed for your time and for showing how we and our students and graduates in future can reshape institutional guidelines.
Great pleasure, and I guess one last thing I'd add is that we're not just about startup businesses, because the truth is that many of our undergrads will go and work for an established business. So that's where that mindset is really critical. What we're creating is people that can be entrepreneurial in established firms, but who also can go and start their own business. So I think that's a really important thing about what we're doing at Monash Business School.
So not just entrepreneurship, but intrapreneurship as well, helping existing big companies transform.
Absolutely.
And goodness me, aren't they? Every single one of them scrambling right now in the midst of this pandemic to do just that.
They're going to need our talent.
Yeah. David, thank you very much indeed.
Most welcome.
So that was Professor David Gilbert. Thank you to both Professor Gilbert and Dr. Snuggs. Oh yeah, there's a question there that my colleagues have answered. James, let's move on to the next slide if we could. Thank you. So more conventional developments, which we're still doing on the knowledge side, if you like. We have an exciting new major in the Bachelor of Business degree in financial econometrics. I mean, as you know, econometrics is the discipline that develops statistical models to make sense of business and the economy and uncover facts, I guess. And that major looks at some of the maths and the theory that underline those models, so you can design new solutions and really understand what it all means. That's an exciting one. Econometrics is one of Monash Business School's biggest strengths, so that's a really exciting innovation there. We also have a more general business studies major, which allows students to create a major from any unit, not discipline specific. So it doesn't have to be financial econometrics or management or marketing. It can be a whole range of things. It'll appeal particularly to people doing double degrees with education, people who want to be business studies teachers. And as many of you, well, the teachers who are listening here will know, a breadth of knowledge is at least as important as depth. So that again allows our graduates some flexibility. I see a question here from Peter. The difference is distinguishing business and commerce degrees. We might actually I'll put that on hold for a moment, and when we flick to the students in a few minutes, we'll get them to talk a little bit about that as well. And my professional colleagues can also provide a written answer there. So thank you to Peter for that one. We're not going to ignore you. Let's just go to the next slide, please, James, and then we can get through to. So the business statistics major, again related with to the econometrics, has been updated and renamed. There's a lot of stuff going on with big data, and it's now called business analytics and statistics to show what it is. The outcome as well as the input. The outcome is an analytic understanding, not just doing the stats, so practical applications. And we have a new international finance unit in the banking and finance major as well. International finance being a huge area of the future, if it isn't already today. In other courses, and so thank you to Peter for flagging this one, I guess. Here's a slide I prepared earlier. James, thank you. The Bachelor of Commerce degree, which is the more mathematically oriented degree. Yes, we have the financial econometrics major in the Bachelor of Business. The Bachelor of Commerce degree overall has more of the mathematical analytical component. The Bachelor of Business has more offerings in the management, marketing, HR type space, broadly and in general. Students and their advisors, I think, are best advised to look at what it is they're interested in, more than looking at the actual, the labels, if you like, the labels of the majors themselves. There's a different ATAR as well, which is also important. The BCom requires an ATAR of 90 or so. The BBiz about 83. That's a question of supply and demand. Those numbers have been creeping up a bit over recent years. No idea what's going to happen next year, of course. So in the Bachelor of Commerce, there's a new serious number crunching major here, mathematical foundations of econometrics, which does, well, just what it says on the slide here. And ideally, because the Bachelor of Commerce degree is based at the Clayton campus, where the science faculty also is, students can very easily complement those units with some of the straight mathematics units from the Faculty of Science that are listed there. The Bachelor of International Business, which is part of the Bachelor of Business degree family, will be moving to Caulfield delivery from 2022 and that'll allow it to be more easily integrated with the Bachelor of Business family of degrees and allow students to do more easily do their doubles. The Bachelor of Business Administration already has double degrees with Media Communication and Arts. That continues. The Bachelor of Business Administration is the Peninsula, Frankston based degree. It's a skill building degree. And of course the opportunities that Monash provides to explore other disciplines, campuses and courses available to all Monash students independent of their entry course. So you can shift. As a considerable proportion of students shift between degrees as they learn more about what it is they're enrolled in. The capstones, and I'm going to flick to the students in a minute, so Edward and Sarah, prepare yourselves. The capstone units are designed for towards the end of the degree to tie all the knowledge and skills together and allow students to integrate them and bring them to bear in an integrated manner. So there's a great long list there that you can see. Edward and Sarah, who's going to go first? I'm going to ask Edward. Edward is. Okay. Yeah. Edward, I don't know, what stage are you in your degree?
So I've got a semester left after this one. So third year of Bachelor of Commerce. I did the entrepreneurship capstone and really, really enjoyed it, obviously. And I thought, like, just because I've been applying for jobs and stuff now, that they always ask you, you know, when sometime you worked in a team to solve a problem or using design thinking, I refer back to that every time, which has been great. Yeah. What else would you like to know about it?
Well, let's see if. Sorry, I thought my phone was on silent. I hope you didn't hear it ringing. What else would other people like to know about it? Are there questions from the participants? Not yet. Max, the answer to your question is yes. International business is moving to Caulfield, and so they're moving away from the city campus. Any other questions for Edward on the capstone? No? Okay, Sarah, over to you. Is Sarah there?
Hi.
Hello, Sarah. So, Sarah, you're a BBiz student.
Yes,
what stage are you at in your degree?
I am also about to finish next semester, so this is my second to last. Exciting,
yeah.
Yeah. I also did entrepreneurship, just like Edward, and I had a great time. Like Edward was saying, like every time I need to look back on something, and if I'm faced with a new challenge, like it's just equipped me for all these bigger things. And it's almost like everything I studied over my first and second year, they've all come together, and I could find myself pulling out information from within me that I already had, and then just making use of all of that in one unit itself, which was pretty exciting.
Yeah, and key takeaways, either of you, from that entrepreneurship unit?
It was very, very realistic. I felt like it wasn't just something that I was studying, but I could see it for myself. Like things I was creating was coming to life before me and my team in just a span of 11 weeks, which is beyond amazing.
Yeah, I agree. And they did things like they brought in some like actual entrepreneurs who are working on startups in the real world, and you can kind of draw connections between what we were working on and what they were doing. And also we got, at the end of it, we got to pitch at a kind of strategic design studio where the tutors work. So that was fantastic. And just like, you know, obviously such a valuable experience.
That's I'm so excited to hear that. What sort of jobs are you applying for? I'm being prompted by one of the participants. Thank you, Kate. And what professional connections have you made?
So I'm applying for investment banking jobs at the moment, but also business analyst jobs too. So more like that's on the startup side of things. I'm working as a business analyst at a startup in Sydney at the moment, remotely. And that's partly due to because I was a member of the entrepreneurship course, and then also I've done a startup on my own as well. So that's, yeah, so investment banking and business analyst roles.
Exciting. Sarah?
I would like to get into teaching. Like, teaching runs in my family. It's just something I love. I'm currently being mentored by one of my tutors from entrepreneurship. She also works at Isobar. So yeah, she's very kind enough to be mentoring me throughout my journey, and she's helping me become a teacher, essentially.
That's well, that's music to my ears too, and perhaps also to the audience here, I would think. So thank you both. Oh, professional connections. Sarah, have you made any more professional connections there? Edward's been lucky through his, well, sorry, I'll just say Edward, through getting involved in Campus Life, the entrepreneurship club, which is separate to the unit itself. The student clubs and societies are a tremendously important part of Campus Life here. Sarah?
I haven't had a chance to really explore much over my time at Monash because I've just been very busy trying to keep my grades up. But as I'm in my final year now, and I'm finally having some time to go to online networking events, and then just making connections through my entrepreneurship connections. So through my mentor, I've met a bunch of amazing people who also work at Isobar, and I'm getting to know what they do and how they make a difference, even though they're just little puzzle pieces in one big picture. And it's just like a domino effect from each person to another, and it just makes change overall.
Sounds like you have actually made some good professional connections there. Despite what you think, it reminds me of what Professor Gilbert was saying in the recorded interview. Students often don't realise how good they are, how well they're doing. I'm probably going to get a wind-up message fairly soon, so I'll keep going. The capstone portfolio there is huge. Here's a I wish slide coming up. Thank you, James. Our study tours, which we so much hope will take off again from next year. We're certainly hoping they will. It's pretty unlikely, in fact, probably impossible for anybody to get out of the country this year. We have domestic study tours too, of course, and the joke we have is, we do have an overseas tour, but it's domestic overseas because there is a study tour to Tasmania, and I think we have at least one Tasmanian participant here. So you're as close to overseas as we can get, I'm afraid, just at the moment. But these are the connections that we already have and are set up and have been put on hold temporarily. The advantage of size and quality is that it's quite relatively easy to open up doors in places like Silicon Valley, and basically anywhere in the world. Work integrated learning is another way in which, James, next slide please, it is another way in which we can help our students ease themselves out of the educational workplace and into the professional workplace, which are placements for credit. Monash has a whole subsidiary company that has been set up to find those placements, and they're supervised by academics. These are proper work integrated learning, not just internships. and there's a list of some of those employers there. We couldn't list them all, of course. Next, thank you. So, from the point of view of developing the skills outside the classroom, we have a group of professional, which is not academic staff, who provide activities for students to build their employability skills, to do more networking through exercises like industry panels, where we get people who are working in industry, leaders, recruitment people coming along to talk to our students, and mentors, and the talent bank as well. So, students, is there anything you think I should have said that I didn't? I haven't yet.
Well, there's a program that I'm going to be a part of next week that's been tapped into the virtual environment thing, where instead of the trip to Berkeley in California for the, I think the unit's called Entrepreneurship in Silicon Valley or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a replacement of that, and it's because of the industry partner called Hacker Exchange, and it's like a shorter, more intense version of the entrepreneurship unit. So that's another opportunity for possible students.
So you get the Silicon Valley experience without actually
having to go.
Having to go, which is both a plus and a minus. Yeah. Thank you, Edward. Sarah, anything from you?
I'm just pretty upset that we won't actually be able to go, but this is the best we can do over the pandemic, which is pretty exciting, I'd say, still, because it gives you something to do without having to leave your home, but you're still getting access to all these amazing things and opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like, it's like teaching online. It's not better, it's not worse, it's different. And for you, particularly if you've not been to Silicon Valley before, of course it's such a shame that you're not going to get there as part of Monash, but you'll be making connections there anyway.
Yeah.
And once the skies reopen, who knows? Well, the world will be your oyster anyway, I hope. Are there any other questions from the audience? I'm just looking at the Q&As online. I see that, yes, my colleagues have been very busily answering the questions there. Anybody want to ask any other questions of our brilliant students here? Louise, is work integrated learning compulsory? Sort of. All students have to have some sort of capstone experience, whether it's a study tour, whether it's work integrated learning, or a classroom capstone integrated unit. So they have to do at least one of those. So, work integrated learning or an equivalent is compulsory. They don't all have to do it. Not all students are ready for it. It doesn't suit all students necessarily at that stage in their degree. So we don't want to make work integrated learning itself compulsory, because that can, it can be unproductive. But all students have the opportunity to do it. So thank you, Louise. Yeah. If not, why not? I think I've explained that. It's a huge program. I think the majority of our students do it, but others choose to do other things with the limited time available. But all students have to do a capstone experience, one as a minimum. Scrolling through. No other questions? Oh, I think there's another one just coming. Great question. Thank you. Thank you, Katie. And I've got one from Kathy too. Students, did you think you knew what you wanted to study specifically prior to your first year? And did your mind change based on your first year experience? Great question. Who's going to answer that one?
I'm happy to go if you want.
Hang on, Edward, I think Sarah clicked unmute.
Okay, no, I'm happy to go second.
No, you go first, Sarah. Go on.
It's a funny story. I was enrolled in economics. I was supposed to major in econ when I first joined Monash, but then after first year, I decided to take a different route. I realized I was more of a creative kind of soul. I switched to marketing, and it was the best decision I've ever made. Like, it suited me so much better. So it's completely okay to change your preferences, and I was very dead set on doing economics when I first joined. I was determined, but then I decided, like, I just want to do something I like and enjoy, something that brings out creativity, hence the switch.
So I'm very, very glad to hear that indeed, Sarah. Thank you. Edward.
Yeah, I definitely knew what I wanted to do, but kind of generally, because I was interested in investing in stocks and stuff, so I thought commerce is the way to go. And then obviously, as I've gone through my degree, I've learned there's just such a broad, like, bonds and everything else that you can kind of choose to go down with the majors. So I'm majoring in finance, but yeah, there's no way in high school that I would have known that, like, kind of things like entrepreneurship were a thing, and that they were offered, basically.
I hear answers like Sarah's and Edward's a lot. I haven't actually looked at the sums recently, but a couple of years ago, I know roughly a third of all the students enrolled in the Monash Business School have changed their enrolment one way or another during their degree. And I think that's tremendous from the point of view of an academic, because it shows that we're changing students' minds, which I think is what we're here for. Kathy has asked, for students, what's the one skill you wish you'd learnt at school for life after school? Ooh.
To do your taxes. They never teach you how to do your taxes in school. No, I'm kidding. I wish I learned in school how to handle the intense pressure that comes with university, and how to handle and manage my mental health, and when to reach out to get help. I wish I learned that in school. I wish they emphasized more of that where I went to school. But that's definitely one skill I wish I had, to know how to manage my mental health and when to ask for help.
It's a continuing issue that we have, Sarah. Some of the research that I'm doing in student success and employability is the inability to reach out. There's an awful lot of services available at Monash, but sometimes people's inability to reach out prevents them from doing it. Edward.
Probably a similar story, but it's just more about learning. You've got to learn very independently, but also the resources are there if you seek them. And in first year or whatever, I thought you just do everything on your own. You go to the tutes, you don't really ask questions, you don't go to consultations and all that kind of stuff. And then as I've gone along, there are all these resources there to help with, like, that kind of pressure. From exams and tutes and staying up to date, and you've got 4 subjects to manage, blah, blah, blah. So it's just about kind of breaking the ice with resources and seeking out things, because there are people at uni that will help you. And it's just, about seeking them out. And that's what, so learning that at school would have been good.
You've both mentioned pressure. In fact, we've had a follow-up question on that. Can you sort of describe the sorts of pressure that you're under that are different for university students than they are for school students? Just in general terms. I mean, we're not sort of probing deeply into your personal lives, but what sorts of pressures might surprise you if you went back to when you finishing school, either?
When you say pressure, okay. So for me personally, I'm an international student. So there was always that extra pressure of fitting in, whether I'd make new friends. And personally, I got diagnosed with ADHD. So I had a tougher time studying than a normal student would and going at the same pace as someone who is normal would. And I personally tried to seek out help much later in my life. And if I'd known before that no one was trying to belittle me, or no one was looking at me and thinking that I had a disability that would stop me from being at the same level as somebody else. Everyone at uni will try to help you if you have a disability. And I was so unaware of that until last month. I wasn't even registered with disability because I almost felt like it would give me an unfair advantage over others, and that's just the opposite. It's supposed to put me at par with everyone else so I can keep up. And
perhaps we can talk offline about that. And my background is marketing too. You're about to become a fully qualified and trained marketer, and it does concern me that we're not able to communicate that to students as well as mine. It's a problem across probably every university in the world. But again, the research that I'm doing in student success involves friends of mine at other universities, and it's a common problem that people don't realise that help's available. Thanks for sharing, Sarah. Anyway,
all right, Colin. Unfortunately, Colin, we are running out of time. In fact, we're actually already 4 minutes over time. I'm conscious that the career practitioners have a very busy day ahead. I'm sure they've got lunch as well sorted. If I could just take this opportunity to thank our students today, to also thank Elizabeth for joining us, David, who unfortunately couldn't be with us, but also Colin as a host. You've done a wonderful job getting across some of those key insights about the business school. We're hoping that everybody's taken as much as they can from this presentation. If I could ask Natalie or Catherine just to write in the chat box there your email address. If there is anything specific you'd like to know in more detail, or you'd like to organise a one-on-one, we can try and do that for you in the coming weeks. Once again, though, everybody, thank you very much for joining us for today's session. And Colin, thank you very much for hosting along with our students, giving their valuable insights.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much. Well, thank you to colleagues, and thank you to the audience too. Thank you to all the careers practitioners. You do a tremendous job out there.